Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Gopi Janavallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari Jaya Girivardhari Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajanaranjana Jaya Vrajajanaranjana Yashodanandana Jaya Vrajajanaranjana Jaya Vrajajanaranjana Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Yamuna Tiravana Chari Jaya Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Jaya Kunja Bihari Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Girivardhari, Jaya Girivardhari. Yashoda Nandana, Jaya Vraja Janaranjana, Jaya Vraja Janaranjana, Yashoda Nandana, Jaya Vraja Janaranjana, Jaya Vraja Janaranjana. Yamuna Thiravana Chari Jaya Kunjabi Hari Jaya Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Ram Hare Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Gaur Haribo. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Shri Shri Prahlad Lakshmi Nrsingadeva ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. Gaura Premanande. So, not sure if this is working. Okay. Oh, now it's working. So welcome everyone, and a special welcome to devotees all the way from the wild east. Hong Kong. Haribol. Nrsingadev has drawn them all the way here. Travel was okay? Yes, no. You made it. That's the main thing. Good. Okay. Well, I thought we could start with Bhagavad-gita, and then I have something. I was presenting in Czechia, Czech Republic, a few days ago. I thought we could start with, but let's start with Bhagavad-gita. Because where would we be without Bhagavad-gita? Okay. Good. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam. Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuttapada Kamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagradatam Sahagana Raghunatang Vitam Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitangscha Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin Iti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nivishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya evacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda, Shri Advaita Gadadhar, Shivas Adi Gaura Bhaktavinda. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So we have the verse written here on the screen. Ladies, I think you may want to shift so you can see the screen. Okay. So we're reading from Bhagavad-gita as it is, translations and purports by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And this is chapter 2, contents of the Gita summarized. Text number 12. We can chant together. Krishna is speaking to Arjuna. It's very much at the beginning of his instruction, giving him some ABCs of spiritual life. Evāhaṁ jātu nāsaṁ. Evāhaṁ jātu nāsaṁ. Tvam neme janādhipāḥ. Tvam neme janādhipāḥ. Caiva na bhaviṣyāmaḥ. Caiva na bhaviṣyāmaḥ. Sarve vayam ataḥ param. Sarve vayam ataḥ param. Evāhaṁ jātu nāsaṁ. Tvam neme janādhipāḥ. Caiva na bhaviṣyāmaḥ. Sarve vayam ataḥ param. Okay, now we can all chant together. Everyone now. Evāhaṁ jātu nāsaṁ. Tvam neme janādhipāḥ. Caiva na bhaviṣyāmaḥ. Sarve vayam ataḥ param. Again. Evāhaṁ jātu nāsaṁ. Tvam neme janādhipāḥ. Caiva na bhaviṣyāmaḥ. Sarve vayam ataḥ param. Once more. Evāhaṁ jātu nāsaṁ. Tvam neme janādhipāḥ. Caiva na bhaviṣyāmaḥ. Sarve vayam ataḥ param. Okay, what's this mean? Na, never. To, but. Eva, certainly. Aham, I. Jātu, at any time. Na, did not. Āsam, exist. Na, not. Tvam, you. Na, not. Neme, all these. Jana-adhipāḥ, kings. Na, never. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Na, not. Bhaviṣyāmaḥ, shall exist. Sarve vayam, all of us. Ataḥ, param, hereafter. Okay, translation, and let's see how far we get with the purport. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, nor in the future shall any of us cease to be. Lots of na in this verse. How many times it says na? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 times. Yeah. That neme is na ime, so it's another na. Lots of negatives. So what is not? It's giving different types, different sorts of what isn't the case in order to explain what is the case. Namely, that there is an eternal, we are eternal, without beginning, without end. Prabhupada explains in the Vedas, in the Kaṭha Upaniṣad, as well as in the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad, it is said that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the maintainer of innumerable living entities in terms of their different situations, according to individual work and reaction of work. That Supreme Personality of Godhead is also, by his plenary portions, alive in the heart of every living entity. Only saintly persons who can see within and without the same Supreme Lord can actually attain to perfect and eternal peace. And then he quotes from the Kaṭha Upaniṣad, Nitya nityanam chaitanas chaitananam eko bahunam yo vidadati kaman tam atmastangye nupashyanti dhiras tesham shanti shashvati netaresham. He doesn't give the translation of it here, but it's pretty simple, straightforward. Nitya nityanam. Nitya means eternal, but in this case it means a person who is eternal. And nityanam is the plural form, but in what we call the genitive case. So, of eternals. So the eternal of eternals. Chaitanas, chaitananam, same thing. A conscious being of conscious beings. And then eka bahunam, yaha vidadati kaman. So eka, there is one. Eka nitya, there's one eternal. Eka chaitana, there's one chaitana. Among many, bahunam, among many nityas and many chaitanas. Yaha, who, vidadati, who gives, who bestows, who he just gives. Vidadati. What does he give? Kaman. You know the word kama? There's karma, and then there's kama. What is kama? It can mean lust. It can also just mean more neutrally desire. And it can mean a certain desire. So 1 comma, 2 commas. Kaman means many commas, many desires. At least 3. So vidadati, he's giving. What is he giving? Kaman. He's giving what is desired. Who is he giving it to? He's giving it to the nitya, the many nityas and many consciousnesses, persons with consciousness. Okay, why did Srila Prabhupada quote this? Well, what is the verse saying? It's saying, it's Krishna, and he's speaking to Arjuna, And where are they? Where are they while they're speaking? They're on a big battlefield about to crash into battle and start killing each other. So we can kind of imagine the scene. There's Krishna, there's Arjuna, and there's all these warriors, these kings. And so Krishna is saying, there was never a time to evāhaṁ, jātu, āsam. It's a kind of double negative. Never was there a time when I never existed. Yeah. Which is a way of saying, I have always existed. And he says, and he's speaking to Arjuna, so he says, na tvam, meaning na tvam jātu, na āsam. It's applied to, sometimes in the Sanskrit, the one word can be sort of used more than once. It's very economical language. So, and the same is true of you, na tvam. And, Hare Krishna, welcome, welcome. And na neme janādhipāḥ. Neme is the pronoun for plural, these, and jana-adhipāḥ. Jana means people. It's kind of das Volk in German. And pa means a protector. So what is a king? A king's business is to protect das Volk, the people. And the over protector, the top protector is the adhipāḥ. And so this is jana-adhipāḥ, which is plural. So he's saying all these kings, same thing. Na jātu, na āsam. Never did they not exist. Because someone might say, well, okay, maybe you've always existed because you're God, referring to Krishna. But what about the rest of us? So Krishna is making clear, no, everyone, me, you, all these kings. So he's really spelling it out. And in this verse of the Kaṭha Upaniṣad, Prabhupada is quoting, and he would quote this, quite often, because it establishes very clearly there is two kinds of eternal beings. There's the Supreme Being who is eternal, and there's all the rest of us. And then what's the relation between the two is yo vidanati kaman. The one is fulfilling everyone else's desires. Tam atmastam ye anupashyanti dhiraha. Okay, this is, Prabhupada explained it before the verse. So, Atma stam, sta means standing in the Atma, that's us. And tam refers to the one Nitya, that's the Lord. Ye anupashyanti dhiraha. So dhira, plural, which that word will come up in the next verse. Right? Famous verse. You all know the next verse. Dehinos minyata dehe komaram yovanam jada. tatra namo yati. Yes, as the embodied soul continuously passes in this body from boyhood to youth to old age, which I'm experiencing, the soul similarly passes into another body at death. A sober person is not bewildered by such a change. So Prabhupada's translating dhira as a sober person, and in the Kaṭha Upaniṣad it's plural, dhiraha, dhiras. Ye anupashyanti, they who pashyanti, they see, ongoing all the time, tesham shanti śāsvati na itara esham. Of them there is shanti. What means shanti? Om shanti shanti shanti. Yeah, tesham shanti śāsvati. Śāsvati means perpetual, on all the time. So they're always peaceful. Na itara esham, there is nothing else than this, something like that. So, this is a kind of a key verse to explain the relationship. There's two kinds of eternals, and the one of them is giving everything for the others, and there are persons called dhira who are able to see that one Lord situated, atmastam. And because they can see him, they're peaceful. They're not disturbed. That's cool, isn't it? It would be cool. It would be cool if we could see, if we could see anupashyanti, the super self in the self. Yeah, that would be cool. Then we would genuinely be cool, because we would not be hot in the head. We would always be cool-headed. Right. I'm just going to stop there because I want to jump into something else, unless any of you have a comment or a question on these points. There's much more in the purport, but we'll leave that for you. Yeah.
When I read the Bhagavad-gita for the first time, this verse was kind of bewildering me, because it says that we always existed, but we're not conscious of it. So we were unconsciously existing. And then, of course, always the question was, so where were we then in this point, or what is it? We are also eternal, where do we reside then? And still, I mean, this is kind of ongoing question, I think, is still.
Yeah, if you just hear this, I've always existed as I'm existing now, I will always exist. It's kind of mind-boggling, because our experience in physical bodies and mental bodies is only of temporality. So we had a slang word in English, to grok. To grok is to comprehend. To really comprehend eternality, who can grasp? And yes, so many questions. How is it possible? I have no memory, and so on. It's probably good that we don't have a memory of the past, because if we did, we might have trouble functioning in the present. At least in our conditioned present. Yeah. But you're asked, what are you exactly pointing to?
The question always came, are we in an eternal blissful condition then? Or are we in a kind of unconscious condition? Still eternal, but kind of, so what would then be, kind of a param?
Yeah, that's a debate in Indian philosophy. What is the nature of this eternal self? In classical yoga philosophy, the Purusha is a completely passive witness, absolutely inactive, which doesn't sound very interesting. But it's the logic of Sankhya, which kind of requires that understanding. The Vaishnava philosophy is not so boring. We've always been active, and we're active now. Why should we have not been active? Why should we not in the future be active? But one might then say, well, that's okay, that's just the conditioned state, this activity because of entanglement in Prakriti. But when there's enlightenment, then one can see the eternality and be totally aloof. And that's the idea, again, in yoga of kaivalya, aloneness, which again sounds really boring. And fortunately, Vaishnavas have a different take on kaivalya. I think it's Jiva Goswami explains, and it's mentioned in the Bhagavatam 11th canto. It means, as I remember, it means singular attention on bhakti, on devotional service. So, but it's like that with all the different darshanas. They'll take the same idea and turn it this way and that way. And of course, all of this, especially the Bhagavad-gita, you can say is, especially this part, is arguing against Buddhist ideas of no self, right? Anatmavada, kshanikavada. There's only momentariness. Actually, there's a Buddhist tradition called sarvastivada, literally all existent doctrine. Everything exists simultaneously in the past, in the present, and the future. Everything. Yeah. Don't ask me how that works, but that's their idea. Okay. That's as far as I think I could say anything cohesive. Yeah, the self of the Bhagavad-gita, it's generally described, especially in this chapter, in negative terms. It's not this and not that and not the other thing. It's not whatever you think it is. But it's there and it's not going to be destroyed. And of course, this is all part of Krishna's argument to Arjuna why he should not hesitate to to fight and thereby to kill persons or bodies, knowing that the soul is going to live on. That's the logic. I know that's not terribly illuminating, but Krishna's just starting out here, and the whole point comes to Mam chayo avyabhicharina bhakti yogena sevate sagunan samatitya itan brahma bhuyaya kalpate, that you can get beyond all of the conditioning, three modes of nature, to realize the self, Brahma Bhuta Prasannatma, which is a joyful self, which is free from hankering and lamentation, na sochati, na kankshati. You can get there, how? Bhaktya mamchayo abhijanati. Yes. So, yeah. Is that okay? For now.
I have more thoughts, but I think this is okay.
Yes. Okay, let's go to this Hermeneutics, the art of devotional interpretation of Śāstra. Grantaraj Śrīmad Bhagavad-gita ki jai. And can you all see the screen? Feel free to come more this way. Actually, what I'm going to show you on the next slide, most of the writing is going to be too small to see, but I will explain. It's just to get a general idea. Yeah, so if we can go to the next slide, there it is. Ooh, what's that? So in Srila Prabhupada's Purport, what we just read, he refers to the Kaṭha Upaniṣad. And what I wanted to show here is one way of understanding relationships among different, what we broadly call Vedic literature. And this is not going to be something that the Vaishnava tradition or traditionalists will be very happy with. Why? Because this is emphasizing a historical perspective which goes back only to 1200 BC. At the very bottom, you see a line. It's a kind of timeline with 3 divisions. And then everything that's above that timeline is, you can imagine, sort of in relation to the timeline at the bottom. Does that make sense? Sort of. So, at the very far left, in the middle, if you put on your binoculars, you'll see it says Mantra Samhitas. Can you see the little box? Oh, yeah, you can expand. Oops. So what is that? That's referring to the Rig Veda, the Samaveda, the Yajur Veda, and the Atharva Veda. Specifically, these collections of hymns. And then you'll see two vertical lines going out from mantra samhitas. On the top it says Rudra, on the bottom it says Vishnu. You see that? In the Rig Veda and so on, you don't find the name Shiva, but you find the name Rudra. And then when you follow this horizontal line from Rudra to the right, it'll say Rudra Shiva, Rudra-Shiva. So by sometime maybe 400 BC of the Common Era, according to modern Indological educated guesswork, because it's all guesswork, this dating of Vedic literature. It's educated guesswork, but it's guesswork. But it's educated. They have reasons. Okay, so yeah, and then underneath, going back, we have Vishnu. And okay, let's go mantra samhitas, and then there's what's called brahmanas. Brahmanas, there's a collection of texts. The most famous is the Shatapatha Brahmana, and this Shatapatha Brahmana is giving elaborate explanations of the rituals and in Vedic sacrifice, and these explanations are can be quite intriguing, sometimes interesting stories. And then it says early Upanishads and late Upanishads, and then it says Kalpa Sutras and Dharma Sutras. So these are all different, you can say, genres of literature which manifest, which come out of, you could say, these original mantra samhitas. But notice there's no line given connecting Vishnu to the Upanishads, unlike Rudra Shiva. And why is that? That's because although the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad, which would be considered one of the later ones, although the Śvetāśvatara Upaniṣad speaks of a divinity, it's very theistic, and we have the final verse Prabhupada quotes many times, Yasya deve para bhaktir yata deve tata guru tasyaite katita hirta prakashante mahatmana. One who has implicit faith in the Lord and the Guru, everything is revealed to that person. The scholars will say, well, that Deva is referring to Shiva, not to Vishnu. That's what they say. Okay, then mysteriously Narayana starts to appear. You see down below again, he starts to appear in the Brahmanas. You won't find Narayana in the Rig Veda. And Vishnu is in the Rig Veda, but not Narayana, the name Narayana. And then you see a line running over to the right from Narayana to what's called here late epics, within which is a little box that says Bhagavad-gita. Late epics, what is that? That's the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, Valmiki Ramayana. Why late epics? I'm not sure why they say that here, but I think the understanding is there were oral traditions of epics before the Sanskrit works that we have. Anyway, you see, it all goes on like that. It gets more and more complicated, and you start to see more and more sort of interconnections. Then you see further on the right is a larger box that says late Puranas, and within that box is a smaller box that says Bhagavata Purana. Now, look straight down from there and look at the date. It's too small to see, but that section says 200 BC to 900 AD, or the common area, CE. So generally, scholars will say the Bhagavatam, in its present form, judging from many things, they want to say it's maybe, well, it was common to say it's from the 10th century of the Common Era. That's been kind of moved back. Now some are ready to say it's earlier than that. But that's another subject, dating the Bhagavatam. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was sort of, you can say, playing around with the dates of the Bhagavatam according to modern history of kings, known history of kings, based on the information he had, which was quite sketchy. And he said, well, maybe we can say that the Bhagavatam is 100 years earlier, in the 9th century. But then he says, anyway, the Bhagavatam, we understand the Bhagavatam is eternal. And it may manifest in different times and different circumstances. So that was his idea. Okay, another, one more little box I'll mention. Right under late Puranas and Bhagavad Purana, there's another separate box that says Vaishnavite Agamas. Do you see that? What is an Agama? That's a genre of literature which is, for the Vaishnavas, specifically referred to generally as Pancharatra. Shanti, shanti, shanti. So, what is Pancharatra? Well, it's literature which is, one way of saying is, it's the basis for our deity worship. Why do we worship Krishna in the deity form? Because Pancharatra tells us to do that and tells us how to do it. But again, notice how late it appears according to the scholarly view. Now, why would I want to show this to you at all? I'm showing it because although we prefer to understand Vedic literature sort of beyond time, I think it's good to just be aware that this is the contemporary scholarly understanding. It's not absolute fixed in stone. I've met several Indologists, scholars who engage in this kind of study. And they're very nice people. They have nothing against Vedic literature or anything, but they're trained as scientists, which means being careful, using empirical evidence as far as it goes. But they're always quite willing to change their mind about something if they're given sufficient reason to believe so. And that reason is not from internal evidence. In other words, if the Bhagavatam says this work is composed in the beginning of Kali Yuga, that's not enough for a scholar to conclude, aham, therefore it's 5,000 years old. Because the hermeneutics of suspicion sort of leads them to question, to say, well, I can also write a book and say that it's written at the beginning of Kali Yuga, right? You can write such a book. We can all write books that say that it was composed in the beginning of Kali Yuga. Mm-hmm. So I don't mean to threaten anyone's faith, but what I want to do is say we shouldn't be ignorant. If you're, meeting, sometime you may meet someone who's more or less aware of this historical perspective, and then if you are not yourself aware of it, you could look a bit foolish. Yeah. Let's go to the next slide. Shri Shripala Lakshmi Nrsimhadev Ki Jai. Okay. Here's another way to think about what is for Vaishnavas the most important literature, which is Srimad Bhagavatam. And here I'm sort of taking a step toward the subject of this whole show, which I'm not going to make you suffer through, which is hermeneutics. Hermeneutics means the process of interpretation, especially interpreting written literature, and especially religious literature. So the idea here of this little diagram is that the Bhagavatam is not a sort of isolated literature, but that there are relationships, and these relationships are I've identified, broadly speaking, 4 types. On the bottom, we have what I'm calling the Vedic corpus, and that would include the mantra samhitas, the brahmanas, the early Upanishads, the late Upanishads, the Kalpa Sutras, the Dharma Sutras, the Dharma Śāstras, and the late epics, and the Bhagavad-gita. All of that would be included in Vedic corpus. One example is the story of Indra and his battle with Vritrasura in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam. So in the 6th canto of the Bhagavatam, Vritra is identified as being previously who? Chitraketu. And Chitraketu was A devotee. A devotee of who? Vishnu, yeah. Sankarshan, I think, more specifically. Anyway, and then he made a little mistake. He thought it was very funny to see Parvati sitting on the lap of Lord Shiva while they were surrounded by sages. He thought that was hilarious. And so he couldn't stop. He couldn't keep quiet. And Parvati didn't think it was funny at all, that he thought that it's funny. And so what does she do? She curses him, and he becomes Vritra Asura. After accepting the curse, he says, whatever, I don't mind. Okay, so then the story goes on, and Indra gets in trouble, and eventually he's confronting Vritra in a battle. So the battle between, or the fight between Vritra and Indra is mentioned a few times, several times in the Rig Veda. Never in any detail, but in the Rig Veda, there's no mention that Vritra is Chitraketu before. No mention. It's just he is a big demon, and he seems to be like a giant snake or a kind of a dragon with a very long tail, who is able to choke the universe and stop all the water in the universe from flowing. So he kind of has the whole universe in a stranglehold, and that's the problem. And then Indra comes with his thunderbolt, and he kills him. And many hymns in the Rig Veda are praising Indra for killing Vritra. All glories to you, Indra. You have killed Vritra. Jai. But in the Bhagavatam, who is in this encounter, who would you say is more of a hero, Indra or Vritra? Vritra is clearly the hero. So you could say that the Bhagavatam, in this particular case, is sort of giving the purport to the Rig Veda. You could say it's giving the devotional purport. It's kind of giving the back story to say, well, yes, but who is Vritra actually? Actually, he's a devotee. So that's one example of how there's a connection, a relation between the Bhagavatam and all of this literature. There's so many more connections. Okay, then we can jump to the top, and you see the square that says commentarial tradition. And what I mean by that is our tradition of specifically commenting the Bhagavatam verse by verse. So the earliest commentator that we have is Sridhar Swami, although there's evidence that there were earlier commentaries apparently lost until somebody discovers them. And then we have later commentators in different sampradayas, and in the Vaishnava sampradaya, especially, our main commentator is much later. He is from the 18th century, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. But again, there are others. And before Vishwanath, there are the 6 Goswamis. Yeah, maybe I should back up. I should say there are the 6 Goswamis, one of whom, Jiva Goswami, has written not a verse-by-verse commentary, but rather, well, he does that also, but he wrote a 6-part treatise systematically unpacking the Bhagavatam's theology, called the Shat-sandarbhas. And then we have Chaitanya Charitamrita, which is in Bengali, but with lots of Sanskrit. And it's a kind of commentary on the Bhagavatam, which in many ways summarizes the teachings of the 6 Goswamis. Yeah, so that's all represented by commentarial tradition. We could add to that also, for example, Sanatana Goswami wrote the Brihad Bhagavatamrita, which is also a kind of commentary on the Bhagavatam, but it's in the form of 2, not 1, but 2 extended stories. And it's in a wonderful way, it's elaborating on principles of the Bhagavatam. Okay, then on the left we have a triangle, non-Indic traditions. And non-Indic traditions refers to all the different religious traditions of the world. And why do I put that in? Why do I include it here? Thank you. I include it because of one comment from Srila Prabhupada. Let's see, I have the comment here. I think I have it. I had it. I thought I had it. Oh, yeah, here it is. Okay, there was a conversation. Srila Prabhupada gave a lecture in 1968 in Los Angeles, and at the end of the lecture, he invited questions, and one lady, her name is not given, said, "Is there anyone similar to Joan of Arc in the Srimad Bhagavatam?" Have you heard of Joan of Arc? She was a French sort of warrior saint, heroine, who was martyred. I forget by the, I guess she was martyred by the British because she's a French hero. 14th or 15th century, something. So she asked this of Srila Prabhupada, and Prabhupada says, And the woman says, "Are you familiar with Joan of Arc? She was a saint." And Prabhupada says, "Yes." Because Prabhupada went to college at Scottish Churches College, which had professors from Scotland. So again, she asks, is there any person in the Srimad Bhagavatam similar to her? And Prabhupada says, you want to see Joan of Arc in Srimad Bhagavatam? Why don't you take Joan of Arc of Srimad Bhagavatam? Any activities of devotees, that is Srimad Bhagavatam. And then he explains the word Bhagavatam. He analyzes the Sanskrit a little bit. Says it comes from Bhagavan. And then he says, so Bhagavata can be expanded to any unlimited ... So anything in relationship with God, that is Bhagavatam. And he concludes, so if Joan of Arc, she was in relationship with God, she is also Bhagavatam. You should expand. And then he said, you should expand Bhagavatam in that way. Yes, he says. So this was just one time early in his preaching that he said this, but I like to think that this indicates there's the Bhagavatam of that we have with 12 cantos and so on, but we can also think of the Bhagavatam in a sort of expanded sense. Okay, then on the right, what do we have? We have current readers. That means us. So we sit down, we read the Bhagavatam, and when we do that, we're bringing with us all of our own personal and unique experiences, our own emotional, psychophysical, sociological makeup. We bring that all with us, and we relate it to the Bhagavatam, or we try to relate, or sometimes we find it hard to relate. And then we sort of wrestle sometimes with the Bhagavatam. So the idea is we are churning the nectar of the Bhagavatam. And Vyasa says in the beginning of the Bhagavatam, Pibata Bhagavatam rasam alayam muhuraho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. O you rasikas, O you connoisseurs of rasa, you bhavukas, you mad people. Relish the Bhagavatam. Can we show the next slide and then I'll finish? So this is the same thing, but just showing more that there's so many aspects to all of this. There's, on the current reader side, on the right, there's our cultural context, there's historical context, and there's our individual psychophysical makeup. So all of this is, I want to suggest one way, and it's sort of just a crude diagram, but it's one way of, I think, to help us think about what we're doing when we read the Bhagavatam, when we hear the Bhagavatam. We're making some different kinds of interconnections which can enrich our appreciation of the Bhagavatam and deepen our realization of what the Bhagavatam, of the message of the Bhagavatam. Does that make any sense? Even after traveling 20 hours from Hong Kong? Okay. So, I think we could stop there. Any thoughts, questions, reflections on any of this? Yes, Ramana.
It just reminds me on how, in one sense, our understanding or our school of thoughts when we come into, let's say, in Vaishnava tradition, especially in ISKCON, we thinking in the way Srila Prabhupada trained us to think. But there is like this common saying I heard many times: we read the same book night. What is it?
I see day, you see night.
No, yeah, we see black and white.
Black
day
and
and
white.
night. We read the same book day and night, but you see black and I see white.
Yeah.
So it's sometimes it's because we think, okay, we are following Srila Prabhupada and he follows his acharya, so we come with the, our view of the Bhagavatam or something is the correct view. But others maybe have a different opinion about this.
Yeah, because we're different.
Yeah, exactly.
I always like to remember that Srila Prabhupada said more than once to read, hear, discuss the Bhagavatam from all angles of vision. And sometimes he would say, discuss it threadbare, you know that expression? Threadbare means just very thoroughly. And if you can listen to Prabhupada lectures, and very often he will make some reference to his own life, for example, or some story from he makes a lot of references to something outside the Bhagavatam in order to illustrate some point. So if you're sort of tuned into that, you notice it more. Yeah. So yeah, devotees, I see white, you see black. Yeah. Well, therefore, this is actually the beginning of a much more extended discussion on ISKCON hermeneutics and the purpose of what has been prepared, including a course on hermeneutics and a 280-page book, sort of handbook, is to help devotees to become more careful in their understanding of Śāstra, following traditional ways of interpreting. Srila Prabhupada many times said, don't interpret. And we get confused by that. What he mainly meant by that is don't misinterpret, which means there's some boundaries within which interpretation goes on. But sometimes he would use the word in a very positive way, that, Vishwanath Chakravarti Goswami Thakur gives different interpretations of this episode and things like that. So, hermeneutics, how to do it. So this is a very elaborate sort of process that the Śāstra Advisory Council developed over some years. And it's hardly known among devotees yet. It's been taught in an introductory way a few times. And hopefully it'll be taught more, because everyone who's taken the course says, wow, this is great. We've had a lot of very positive feedback on it. It's essentially consisting of three components, namely principles, qualities, and tools. And it specifies 6 qualities for the devotee who wants to properly or in a good way, in a sattvic way, or a transcendental way to interpret scripture. And there's 24 principles, and there's 40 tools. And the handbook gives extensive explanations of all of these based on statements in our Śāstra, especially statements of Srila Prabhupada and Śāstra text. Yeah. So the idea is then to pursue the absolute truth and not I'm right and you're wrong and we have to fight, and it's about getting at truth. And normally in the tradition it was all very simple. You had Śāstra, you had sadhus, and you had guru, and especially guru would kind of give you the conclusion. And that's how it was when Srila Prabhupada was present. But now we have a worldwide movement, and we have quite many gurus, although not nearly enough. That's another topic. So there can be different ways of understanding. And it's not that by everyone becoming expert in this hermeneutics that then everyone's going to have the same conclusions. It might just be the opposite, because it's not cookie cutter process. It's really what it's about is going deeper into Śāstra, because Śāstra is always deeper. You can always, however deep you go, you can keep going. Yes.
Thank you very much. As you were speaking about the hermeneutics, it gives possibility and tools to us to see that there are different angles of vision that we can have. I was just wondering, still it can be hard to discuss when we're sharing our angle of vision, because we're so used to stay in our bubble and our own realization, and this is where we are, able to actually access Bhagavatam. And I remember you did have a seminar on dialogical Vaishnavism, and I thought this would be so helpful to have as a complementary or a second step, so that we actually know how to share our insights.
Yeah. The lost art of listening. Yeah. Yes. A lot of challenges are there. And When in doubt, blame the age of Kali. Manda sumanda matayo manda bhagya hi upadruta. I was going to say, even, of course, there are disagreements amongst the acharyas also, but it's usually just like, okay, that's one way of understanding, this is another way of understanding. And even one acharya, I've been reading together. I'm with a little reading group, 4 of us, reading in the original, the Sanskrit, the commentary of Sanatana Goswami for 10th canto. We've been gradually working through the first chapter. And Sanatana Goswami is a lot of fun because he especially likes to find more than one meaning in the same word or the same passage. But in this case, it's not that he's just speculating, because he knows his Sanskrit grammar. And so he can say, well, you can take it this way, or you could also take it this way. And you go, yeah. Now I see why that is. And sometimes, not in the chapter we're reading, but later, he'll give several alternatives to a particular verse. Could mean this, could also mean like this, could also take it like this. Or, I like to think Sanatana Goswami was a jolly sort of person who was having fun with his commentary. It's all very serious, but it's all, he's having a good time also. He's stirring the nectar. So we, yes.
Reminds me of Lord Chaitanya interpreting the Atmaram.
Yeah, 61 times. One time it was 18 times, another 61, I think. Yeah, he was also having fun. Shall we have 5 minutes kirtan? Haribol. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna. Let's do it again. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, Ram Hare Hare, Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Haribo, 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 Haribo. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Lakshmi Prahlad Nrsingadeva ki jai, Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Gaur Premanande. Tomorrow is another day. And some of you need a good long night's sleep. Nobody's going anywhere. You can have darshan now. Come up. Oh. Who, me? All right. That's a good idea. Namaste Narasimhaya. Praladhalatadai. Hiranya Kashipu Macha Shilatam Kanakalai Hito Singha Parato Singha Yato Yato Yamitato Singha Bahe Singha Hridaye Singha Narasingha sharanam prapadye. Tavakara kamala bade naka adutta singha dalita hiranyakashipu tanubhingha keshavadita narahari rupa jaya jagadisha hare jaya jagadisha hare Jagadisha Hare Tavagara Nakara Adutta Singha Dalita Hiranyagashipu Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Hare Jaya Jagadisha Jaya Nrsimha De Jaya Nrsimha De Jaya Nrsimha De Jaya Nrsimha De Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj, Jaya Prahlad Maharaj. Haribo, 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 Gora Haribo. Bhakti Vinashaka Sri Nrsingadeva Ki